was good.
Welcome to the channel. It is day 5 of the Baja Divide Cape Loop. Eric and I are here in El Rosario. It's going to be a short day today. We're only going to ride about 7 miles to a little town called El Triunfo, which has great pizza and great bread, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, looking forward to both.
Slightly off route. The actual Baja Divide route does not go through Triunfo, goes the other way, but we're going to rejoin the route shortly thereafter. Good day yesterday, enjoying our Java here in the morning. And for those that have not watched all of our channel, and maybe you are here because of the Baja Divide, you've probably watched some other famous stars, maybe Ryan Van Duzer or John Mira or Bikepacking.com or somebody else on YouTube here that show you sort of the trials and tribulations of the divide. We like to think our brand is a little different.
Very different.
Very different. So we're giving you a different perspective. Sort of like, if I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would say we're kind of like showing you how the normal Joes, the weekenders, conquer the Baja Divide.
Yeah, or try to conquer the
Or try to. So stay tuned. We got a lot more for you coming at you.
My name is Michael Ladden. After visiting over 120 countries on 5 continents, I made the bold decision to sell all of my possessions and become a full-time nomad more than 4 years ago. Currently, I am traveling in my self-built ex-Army overland expedition truck, complete with a KTM motorbike, bicycles, kayak, a one-wheel, and all the essentials needed to explore this incredible planet we call home. Join me as I share my adventures and stories from around the world.
Guess we know if there's no other hole, though, we know where the holes are. So we can retape them if we have to. But...
Yep, but hopefully those are going to hold.
All right, there's our fix. Oh boy.
Yeah, they don't taste great. Ready for another night.
So camp set up here. I have on the back, so when I unpack the bike, everything is all ready for camp. We got the tent, the sleeping bag, the air mattress that's now been repaired, the liner for the sleeping bag and my pillow, and the Helionox chair, and that all goes in these bags on the back of the bike. So one-stop shopping when you unload.
Nice. All right, here was my cycling choice for the 2024 Baja Divide. It's a Trek Stash 9.9, 2.6-inch tires in the front, 3-inch tire in the back. Has a front shock, which has been appreciated on washboard and downhill sections. I went with the flat pedals this year versus clip-ons, which has resulted in a lot less tip overs. However, the tires have been a huge disappointment with the amount of sand that we've had and me weighing in at a sprightly 220 pounds at the start of the ride just is not a good combination for tires less than 3 inches wide. In fact, I think you need to be like the fat bike of last year, 3.8 or bigger when you're a big boy like myself. We'll see how the trip continues to progress, but the sandy sections and the hilly sections have been a huge challenge for me on any bike.
Heading out from the Cactus Sanctuary.
Gracias, adios.
All right, we made it a mile down the road here, and Eric's gearing is no good. So we've micro-adjusted the garbage out of it. That's not working. But his bike has something weird. It's got a pulley. The bottom pulley on this thing has got like big and small teeth, which I've never ever seen on any other bike before. And if you guys out there know anything about that, I would highly recommend not getting a bike like that, because to me it's stupid.
I think we got it right. I think
I do too.
Yeah, Big's going.
So big, remember, big is fat.
Yep.
So fat should be going in the middle of the chain.
Yep, and that's what it looks like it's doing.
Okay. All right, so I think we may have micro-adjusted. So we're working with a SRAM E-Tap, which is electronic shifting. And you've got a micro-adjuster on it, so it basically slides the derailleur in and out, you know, very, very minutely, let's call it.
Okay, so it's trying to
We're going to see if we can get that right. So he's skipping all over the place. It's rotating between second and fourth gear right now. All right, let's test that. Shift it around and turn around and come back. What's it doing now? Okay, I go to second.
All right, let's give this one a shot.
Okay. Yep. And there's the Peninsula on our right. Hola! Hola.
Hey, gracias. Muy bonito.
Big goings on here. Going for the Saturday ride.
Oh.
Hola.
Hola.
Here we are. Pavement. We're on the Peninsula. I think it's about 3.5, 4 miles to El Triunfo. All right, one of the most popular segments of last year's Baja Divide video series was the question and answer.
Yeah, and looking forward to some question and answers today.
So we're gonna do it again. And about a week ago, I put out a request for questions on social media and on Instagram, and we got a whole mess of them. So we have now selected, I don't know, about 10 that we're gonna answer for you guys today. And there was some pretty good ones, actually.
Yes. Looking forward to it.
All right, first question. And if we start laughing, who is the one, of the two of you, who is the one pushing more for more adventures? In other words, which one is the instigator?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I think we both kind of contribute to this series of comedies and adventures and excitement and uniqueness. But
I think they partly ask probably because you're coming from being, I'll call it sedentary, meaning like you have a house and you're in a house, and I'm like all over the place living in a truck on the road.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I have a traditional lifestyle with a wife and a family and a home and responsibilities that are stationary.
And I got a turtle.
And you got a turtle.
But in seriousness, I would say Baja Divide complete last year.
That would be me. I'll take responsibility for part 1. Yeah.
Part 2.
That would be you.
Yeah, it might have been my fault this time around, for sure. Yeah. Yep.
But as soon as you suggested it, it seemed like we both jumped in.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of fighting.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, if we start like brushing ourselves, we're sitting under this tree that, I mean, it's a perfectly blue sky day, and it seems like it's raining on us.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
And I don't know what
though.
A raining tree is a little unusual, but it does seem to be doing something.
It's odd. All right, second question. Would you ride any section of the Baja Divide again, and why?
Ooh, that's a great question, and it's hard to, for me, it's hard to pick one. But recent in my mind, and maybe yours, is the section we did 2 days ago from Las Planas to El Cardinal.
Yeah, so north of, on the map here in Baja, north of Los Barriles and south of La Ventana. That section was spectacular. You guys may not have seen it on the video yet because this Q&A is going to go out probably before you actually see that. But
beautiful.
Yeah, it was. What was the thing that we said that surprised us the most is there was nobody on it.
Yep, it had a real tough entrance and a real tough exit, but the road was beautiful once you got en route, and it was spectacular views.
And weird in a sense too. It didn't have any ranches and had no cows, you know, because we're so used to seeing vacas everywhere. It was nothing. But it was unbelievable. The road actually was in decent shape. Particularly because I think it was in rock up on the cliffs overlooking the Sierra Cortez.
It was beautiful. It was stunning. And not to forget about last, our first round 1, where we went through some fantastic mission cities like Mulaje and Loreto and the stretch along the coast north of La Paz.
Yeah, I would say that maybe the last time, I really liked that water crossing section that goes from the west coast, from like El Datil on the Pacific, coming out into Mulaje.
Yep.
Had like 102 water crossings. That one I thought was fantastic.
Yep.
But do we answer the question? Would you ride any section again, and why? So would we go back and ride the section is I think we need to answer.
It's when you're looking at a section specifically, no question I'd go back and ride that. When you put them all together in a cumulative fashion, then I'd have to hesitate again.
Fair enough. Okay, next question. Was the Cape Loop more civilized and more urbanized than the overall Baja Divide from the border all the way down? Meaning, for those out there, there's a lot of chatter, of course, that the Cape Loop is sort of Baja Divide light, I guess maybe you could call it.
Yep, possibly. But
what do you think of that?
Well, I was going to defer to you, but in my opinion, no, it might be Baja Divide light, but it is you're out there in the middle of nothing depending on your speed, and we're plagued with slow speeds. You could be 2-3 days, and in some cases 4 days without hitting a town or a resupply point.
Yeah, for somebody that actually lives down here, I would tell you that no. I mean, you'd be surprised how quickly you can leave a, quote, populated area. And by the way, some of these areas that we call populated, like La Ventana or Todos Santos, are not populated in a sense that there's huge amounts of people. So you're talking about maybe 3,000 to 8,000 people or something in a town. Not huge cities. So certainly Los Cabos is a city. But I'll tell you what, you can get out only a matter of 5 or 10 miles, and it's a whole nother world.
Whole nother world. You're out by yourself, and resupply is got to be front of mind.
Yeah, yeah. So for those of you that are wondering if this is a loop that is less off the grid or farther, or I should say closer to civilization and easier to navigate with supplies and stuff, I would tell you probably not.
Nope, I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay. Aside from water, what was the biggest challenge that you faced on the Cape Loop section? Do you want a list?
Oh yeah. Well, for me, I think it's kind of easy. To me, the heat was just amazing. Just beat the life out of me. The heat was incredibly harder than I would have expected it to be. Yeah.
I think if you take the Baja Divide from San Diego down to the tip, the two things about the Cape Loop, one, obviously, it's all the way down south, which tends to make it warmer. No matter what time of the year, it's going to be warmer. And we're certainly doing this. We did this route later in the year than we did the rest of the divide last year.
Yep.
But so heat is definitely a factor, and sand. I would tell you that there's always sand, and there's been sand along the entire route, but there was more sand down
There was
here.
a lot of sand, deep sand. And
Yeah.
It was heat, sand, hills. You could have a long list, but for me, heat was probably leading the charge.
So this goes right into that. How did the Cape Loop compare to the Baja Divide proper, if you will, the whole length of it? How did the two compare?
Well, you lead off.
To be honest with you, I would say they were very similar. Eric and I joke about this, as we ride every day. There is no section that is easy. And when you wake up in the morning and you say, unfortunately, maybe fortunately or unfortunately, we have GPS. We have our bike computers where we have connectivity. I've downloaded Google Maps offline. I've downloaded Strava segments offline and various things that we can look at.
We have Baja Divide guides and Baja Divide chatter on Facebook.
Yeah, so you have a lot of information, and in many cases I find that the information is actually a huge negative because we get our hopes up more than anything, I think. And you'll go, oh, the next section, we joke, it's like the next section, it's all downhill. It's like a luge. It's like just, it's downhill. Look at the elevation profile.
Not.
No. Because one thing is that you could tell the mileage doesn't mean anything. The elevation doesn't mean anything. It doesn't tell you anything about the conditions. You can go, a 10-mile section could be done in an hour. It could be done in 10 hours.
Yep.
You don't know by looking at anything.
Yeah, and every day there's going to be some series of challenges, and I think it's a delicate balance between planning and being prepared and either being psyched up or psyched out to just riding at your best, because there'll be something that's going to be challenging.
I would say the difference, if the question is really asking comparison of actually doing it, the Cape Loop for us, because it was a 9-day circuit, we were basically in under 2 weeks, you can complete that section of the Baja Divide. So there's a different set of mental, we'll talk about that in a couple other questions, but there's a different set of mental challenges involved with a shorter period of time when you start out in California and go, wow, I've got 2 months to go.
Yep, definitely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This one's manageable mentally and physically. The other one's almost intimidating when you start out.
Okay, here's a big one. And this is going to maybe create some discussion here. How did you guys choose your bicycles and why? And for those of you that, I know some of you are in the know, and obviously you're watching the videos now, you know that we are riding. Last year we rode the same exact identical bikes. And this year I'm riding the same bike I did last time, which is the Surly Wednesday. It's got 3.8 tires. It's a fat bike. It has no suspension. It's pretty heavy. And we chose it last year based on what we envisioned to be the bike of choice for us, based on a lot of it had to do with how to the ability to mount packs and stuff on it.
Right.
Because if you guys watched last year's series, you know that we had panniers both front and rear and racks and all sorts of stuff, which I went a little bit lighter. So my bike was probably 40% lighter this year.
Yep.
Same bike.
Same bike.
Eric.
Yeah. As Mike said, we were same bike last year. This, after reflecting on last year, I felt that it would be better to try a mountain bike with front suspension, hardtail, no rear suspension. And I put the widest tires I could on, which was a 2.6 in the front and a 3-inch on the back. Mike and I both learned that tire size is a direct correlation to body size and pack and amount of baggage that you're going to be putting on the
total weight.
Total weight. And I think the mountain bike failed miserably. Yeah, I don't know if the sand is worse on the Cape Loop or was just less noticeable last year because we were on the fat bike. But the weight difference on a Bear bike was 7 pounds, you know.
Yeah, the difference between your bike and my bike were about 7 pounds, so fairly negligible.
Yeah.
But like what I found was the sand and the bigger rock, the chunky sections we call it, I felt like my bike got through those things.
Yeah.
And yours. Now, the other thing you didn't mention is the other difference is, which comes into pluses and minuses, obviously, is I was clipped in and he was not.
Right. Yep. You know, and on the clipped in part, I think it was a good decision for me. There were far less tip overs this round than there were last year. We still got our share of scrapes and and bruises, but nothing like the round one. So I would stick with the clipped in for me, although you lose pedaling powder.
Yeah, I think I powered up some of the real steep sections easier.
Yeah. So bottom line is, I think the fatty is the right way to go. Personal preference, whether you go clipped in or not. Suspension, if you have a flatty, is not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the difference there. Mental or physical? What is more difficult on the Baja Divide? Oh, I personally, I feel it's mental. We maybe didn't show this on the video, and I know you guys are watching this after this episode, but the Cape Loop compared to last year, at no point last year did I ever have the proverbial white flag in my hand. This year, after day 3, I'm not even sure I had it in my hand. I had it half raised. I mean, mentally, after 3 days, I was done.
I was toast. We were both, unbeknownst to either of us, we were both wondering whether we were going to be continuing past day 3.
Yeah. And for me, that was more mental because it was incredibly difficult. And to some extent, Eric was, I think, I won't speak for you, but you were struggling physically,
Yep.
which was worrying me from a mental perspective. So it was tough because I was having a very difficult time seeing how we were going to get through it physically, which was weighing mentally.
Yep. And I agree. You know, for me, it was more physical. For the first 3 days versus last year that was more mental, so a little reverse from you, because last year was such a big route that we had in front of us with so much unknown and so much time that we needed to invest. This one was more manageable, so theoretically for me, mental was easier, but the physical drain, which I think was primarily heat related, and then starting out with 3 sandy, hilly days, really pushed me.
Yeah, and you have to understand, so we started the route in Los Frailes in the middle of the section, basically, because that's where my truck's located, and we knew that it was largely front-loaded, meaning that the first 3 sections of the Baja Divide from where we were starting were extremely difficult. Most people would tell you that probably the 3 toughest sections of the divide. So we started on that, and so coming literally within a mile out of the gate, we were in
hell.
Yeah, I was toast, and I admit I was toast, and Michael would have to kind of direct me because my thought process was all out of whack. By the end of day 3,
I was concerned. He was having dizzy spells. He was
hallucinating.
Into day 3. He was damn near incoherent when we arrived. Couldn't figure out how to use a shower or whether he had towels or how the lights turned on. So it was rough.
Right.
And then because it was so physically strenuous, I think my mind immediately went down the rabbit hole as well as because let's be honest, you just go, what in God's earth I don't need to be doing this. What am I doing out here?
And then complicating it was all of our guides and all our planning was saying day 4 was going to be the hardest of the entire trip.
That's right.
So playing back to the mental.
Yeah. So unlike last year, because this was a shorter trip, we only took 2 rest days, and that happened to be after those first 3 days. And it was night and day after we got the rest.
Yep.
The next day we really didn't talk about it much. We waited to the following day, and then all of a sudden our spirits had turned, and really from that point forward,
I don't think we ever hesitated.
We didn't look back. So we got through it. We pushed through it, and but it was a rocky 24 hours of challenge for sure.
No question. So I don't know if I forget the original question.
Well, physical or mental. I mean,
yeah, I'd stick with the.
They're both tough.
But they're both tough. Physical for me on round 2, which kind of transitions into mental.
Yeah, and I think the first Baja Divide last year that we did, the whole section, a lot of the mental is, I remember just looking after 3 or 4 days of riding day in and day out, and you look at a map and you're like,
that's a big...
well, we've got nowhere.
Yeah.
So
1,700 miles crossing the Baja multiple mountain ranges of multiple times. It's no joke.
All right, here's a good one. What plans do you guys have for other potential bikepacking challenges in the future?
It's kind of hard to think that we really planned this one out. It kind of was a little spontaneous in some respects, but I think once you get bitten by the bug, it's hard to let it go. And there's so much enjoyment, as people have told us, type 2 adventure or type 2 fun, so much enjoyment post.
Here, let's roll this into 2 questions at a time, because the next question is, you said you'd never do it again. Why did you do it again? So I think those 2 questions are very similar.
Well, you sure are.
Yeah, well, we're considering an adventure that's also super challenging on the mainland of Mexico. We've talked about that. There's been, talk is a strong word. We've mentioned it a few times. And, we've looked at maps. Occasionally we'll get an email from Eric that says, hey, did you see this route in Spain or wherever? And my usual response is very similar to what it was before we did the Baja Divide the first time. I'd be like, yeah, just hit delete, ignore that. And then I dig it out of my deleted box and well, let me see what that looks like.
And then you start researching maps, and the next thing you know, we're starting to think about it a little more sincerely.
Right. Yeah. So I wouldn't rule it out. So I guess the difference this time, last time I said I would never set foot on a bike, and obviously I did.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling it out.
And then I think back that we both said, no way, no how, not going to do this again. I think our memory focused on all the positives, and we quickly forget the negatives, and maybe in respect underestimate the negatives. But
well, type 2 fun, by definition, is the negatives become positive stories later on.
Yeah.
Right?
Complicating it, I think I got a little brain disconnect. When we talk about these trips, my brain is always saying, yeah, we can do it. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I'm like the little engine that could. And now, then we get back to a couple questions ago, but do I have the physical capabilities of pulling it off? It's still debatable.
So it's funny, and the only reason I'm looking down at my little piece of paper of the questions is because the next question, it's almost like 3 questions in the same thing here. The next question is, how do you make it work with 2 people who are presumably different, have different personalities and different, needs and routines? So you started alluding to that when you said,
your disconnect.
Yeah, for me,
Talk about that.
Yeah, for me, I always think we can get it done, you know, right out of the blocks. I mean, oh yeah, we can do that. Over 35 miles a day, no problem. Oh yeah, we can get that done. Then we get into the middle of it and I start to question. Michael is more of,
Can't do it.
nope, we can't do that.
Nope, can't do that. Nope. I'm, last video we said, or last year we said I was a realist and he was the optimist. And then we determined that neither one was really realistic. Even my realism wasn't quite there.
Yeah. But I do think, to the question, I think it's, you need to have complementary personality traits and need to both be able to temper which person's view is versus the other, and how can they both coexist. Because I know for sure I would not be doing this thing solo.
No, we've talked about this on the trail a bunch of times around the campfire, because we've met, I mean, in the 2 trips that we've now done, we've met, I would say the vast majority of people that we meet are solo.
Solo, it's
right,
which is amazing to me.
Both men and women.
Yep.
Actually, probably this time more women than men.
Yep.
I can't picture doing it by myself, because so to me that's almost another kind of adventure.
Yeah. You know, you bring it dovetail into the mental question. I don't think I'd have the wherewithal to ride solo. With 2 of us, one of us is got a little ounce of positivity and always wants to push forward. And I think it keeps the other person going.
Because very rarely are we both either mentally or physically drained at the same time. It seems like, you know...
Except for day 3.
Yeah, well, day 3...
Luckily, it was a short window.
Yeah, we were both pretty bad. But normally, it's like somebody either just had some peanut butter on a tortilla and it has a little extra energy, and the other one's still dragging, and then you just, well, it's not that far. Let's make it to the top of the next hill.
Yeah.
So I think with 2 people, there's always somebody. Also, 2 brains are smarter than one.
Yeah.
So it comes in handy, I think, when you're looking for a campground, when you're making decisions on how many miles you're going to do in a day, how much water supply we need on board. Because I think certainly last year on occasion you'd be like, well, I think we only need maybe half full, and I'm always like, ooh,
yeah.
I don't know.
And I've come over to Michael's side of the fence, where better take more, despite the weight. It's better to be prepared than to go out light on water.
One of the things I noticed on this trip is that we have obviously taken criticism online about being it's almost a joke at this point. Those are the 2 old fat guys with the overweight bikes.
Yeah.
What I noticed is my bike is pretty heavy, and if there was one section that we did this year that we were concerned about water a little bit, and we threw on a bunch of extra Gatorade, and I maybe overdid it. I think I took 7 bottles of Gatorade, so it was really heavy. The difference between kind of heavy and really heavy are not that different.
No.
In the fundamentally, it didn't change much. So,
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's things like that we kind of have come to agreements on, and we generally like the same stuff anyway. So the personality thing is really not that difficult.
No.
I don't think. No. I love this question. What do you say to somebody contemplating doing the Baja Divide?
My thoughts are, take advantage of adventures, and whether it's the Baja Divide with the bicycle or hiking something, go out and meet the people and see the landscape and learn about the history. There's so much fulfillment in what you get exposed to, and the mode of transportation or the physical activity is a complement to it. It's not the reason that I would do it. It's a kind of a benefit of doing it.
Yeah, my 2 main mottos I live my life by is just go do it, number 1, and number 2, just don't spend all your time getting ready to get ready.
Yeah.
So go and do the stuff. And what Eric said is totally true. Even spending half of my year down here in Mexico for the last 3 years, you don't see the same thing as when you get out there.
Yeah.
And the experiences that you see, both the people that you meet, And I mean both like Baja Divider people and the locals, the rancheros, and the little villages you come into, and you get to see a totally different perspective on the way people are living.
Yeah.
And that for me is what makes it
Special. Yeah.
super special and super interesting to see. And then some of the things, and you come across, we came across a guy in a town on this trip that, he's actually an American that lived down here for some amount of time. And he'll tell you stories, and he knows local people and personalities. And then you hear about one guy, and then, but there's the stuff that you learn that you're not going to learn, going to Disney World or checking in at, or even quite frankly, like living in an arroyo here in Baja, like I do, like you're in a place, you're surrounded by people that are oftentimes like you or came from US or Canada. You don't get out there enough, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing that I think is the most interesting, is really the people.
Yep.
And the culture. So whether it's the Baja Divide or, bikepacking across, the Andes Mountains or Japan or wherever,
Yep.
it's an experience, right?
To me, it's what we do, what we've done, and what we just finished is more of a cultural and country immersion that we just happen to be traveling by bike. And to me, bike is the optimum mode of transportation because it's faster than walking. For me, it's only part of the time. But it's not too fast that you can't stop and see and experience. So I think it's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Strongly recommend.
I mean, you're on a bicycle, you're certainly exposed to everything, whether it's the elements, the people, just you're out there. You're not in a, like I travel around in a big truck. I can go inside and close the door. It's not exactly the same. When you're on a bike, you're open to everything, so you get to experience stuff.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it. And that, I guess, is type 2 fun, and that's the Baja Divide.
Yep.
So if you're contemplating do it, I would tell you to do it.
Go for it.
But man, be ready.
Yep.
Train more than we do.
Pack less than we do.
Pack less than we do. Eat more while you're doing it than we do. Maybe something other than peanut butter and cookies. But just get out and do it. So that's what we got for you today. Get back to watching the videos.
Oh, Rolando.
Rolando. What does that mean, Eric?
Rolling.
Rolling. Let's go.
I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. And did you know you can join for as low as $5 a month for exclusive behind the scenes Drive the Globe content? Thanks for joining me today. I really hope that you liked this video. And if you did, give a big thumbs up. Please subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next video.